Carnage first appeared in Amazing Spider-Man number 345 in January of 1991. Carnage is the offspring of the Venom symbiote, and he was created while rescuing Eddie Brock from prison. The symbiote left behind an offspring in Eddie's cell, which he shared with sociopathic serial killer Cletus Cassidy, whom the offspring symbiote bound with via a wound in his hand. Once they bonded together, they dubbed themselves Carnage, and they became a very deadly and recurring enemy for both Spider-Man and Venom, as well as a larger threat to the entire Marvel universe. Once he had escaped prison with the assistance of his new powers, Cassidy went on a huge killing spree with his newfound powers, taking off or picking up where he left off, rather. Leaving the message "Carnage rules" painted on all of the walls in blood. After months of chasing and hunting him, he finally was found by Spider-Man. But Spider-Man lost and was beaten very badly. But during this encounter, he discovered that Carnage was also a symbiote and enlisted the help of Venom to try and stop his murderous offspring.
Okay.
After many more years and many encounters in different ways, Carnage was presumed dead. The symbiote had been split from Cletus and was presumed dead. However, it would later turn out that because the way the symbiote bonded with his blood and not just his body, his physiology had been changed to the point where he could recreate the symbiote from his own blood if the conditions were correct, allowing him to regrow Carnage because Carnage was one with him. The apparent destruction and rebirth from Cletus' DNA and or blood is quite a common theme with Carnage. A lot of the time he is presumed dead only for a little bit of magic, a little bit of science or something to be able to extract it from Cletus. Carnage is quite different to Venom, however. Where Venom is seen as quite dominant and controlling of the host he inhabits, Carnage is more submissive and loyal towards its host. Granted, this is seen mostly with Cassidy, and it doesn't mean that they are perfectly one and the same. As we discussed with Anti-Venom being mindless, Cassidy and Carnage have been known to disagree in the rare circumstances where they don't agree on how to proceed. They will butt heads very rarely, but as a general rule, they're essentially in a weird kind of love affair with each other in which their twisted minds are so in awe of one another, they kind of are very happy. And they get, as stupid as it sounds, horrific separation anxiety from one another. And they both kind of go a little bit even more insane and dangerous when they are forced to separate from one another, as it leaves them desperate to find each other again. Carnage is, I would probably say, just as famous as Venom at this point. Because I feel like in the mid-90s, Venom kind of got changed slightly from an out-and-out villain to an anti-hero. Because they realised Venom's entire thing was just he hates Spider-Man, and that kind of runs out of storytelling ability after a while. And in making him more three-dimensional, they realised he worked better as an anti-hero, so they gave us Carnage, and they were like, okay, Carnage is a bad symbiote anyway that just wants to murder everything, and his host is going to be psycho serial killer, and they're going to become one and the same, and they're just... And at that point, we've established Cletus Cassidy is a psycho serial killer before he's got the powers. You don't need to explain more than that. He's just this guy who was already scary and dangerous, who now has the ability to do a lot more scary stuff. Carnage has been used for a lot of big events over the years. In fact, they've just finished one
Oh.
where Miles had to fight him alongside a kind of supervillain task force
Mm,
because Carnage had been able to become a technologically abled symbiote that
okay.
had found a way to take over some of Iron Man's old armors.
Oh, so like a weird symbiote
Yeah,
Ultron.
yeah, kind of. And he was like using them armors to like kidnap people and turn them into his little psycho minion people. And that
Wow.
is Carnage. He's probably one of my favorite villains because I feel like he can be used while he works obviously extremely well as a Spider-Man villain because
Mm,
of his psychotic and murderous nature. He can work as a villain for almost anyone, which
yeah.
means he gets a lot of use in a lot of good places.